All right, welcome to our masterclass today. We're going to be taking a deep dive into gut health, and I have packed a lot in to share to you today. But before we jump in, a little bit about me and who I am. I'm Dr. Angie Elliott. Hi, Jackie. And I am a local functional medicine chiropractor out of White Bear Lake, Minnesota. And I have a passion for working with women and children, both in my functional medicine practice as well as my chiropractic practice. So we're going to do a deep dive into gut health today. It is probably one of the things I talk about most when it comes to my functional medicine work. I love interaction in these classes, so feel free to raise your hand and ask questions, type questions into the chat, and Alicia will help me just make sure I can see those. And then I'll also reserve time at the end for any questions that you might have. And at that time, if you haven't joined me before, I'm going to be asking for your one main takeaway from our time together today. Hopefully you have more than one, but as you're taking notes, the idea is to find one that you can start with so we don't get too overwhelmed with all the information that we're going to cover today. So just keep that in mind as we get started. Now, before we continue, I'm going to have to start with our disclaimer. I want to emphasize that the information provided today is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content is based on research and clinical experience, but should not replace professional medical guidance. I encourage you to consult your healthcare provider, especially if there's any underlying conditions or if you're taking medications. It's important to note that individual results may vary as everyone's health is unique. I'm not responsible for any specific health outcomes. For any questions or concerns, I recommend seeking personalized advice from your licensed healthcare provider. All right. So why does gut health matter? Let's talk about that first and foremost. Why are we here today and diving into this topic? And this is probably, sorry about that, the number one thing I am covering and spending probably the most time on with almost all of my functional medicine clients. It's one of our biggest focuses. No matter what their symptoms might actually be, their symptoms might not appear gut related, but yet that's where we spend a lot of our focus. And this is because gut health impacts almost everything in your body. And that's going to be one big thing you're going to take away from today. It's going to impact your hormones, your digestion, your mood, your behavior, your sleep, your energy, your focus, your attention, your skin health. We could keep going and going and going. The gut really influences the whole entire body. And many of your symptoms may be coming and rooted in inflammation in your gut. So today I'm going to share some simple steps you can take to start healing your gut. And maintaining a healthy gut is foundational to feeling your best. So let's dive in and start with something we call your gut microbiome. You might have heard this term. It's gotten a lot of PR and marketing lately. And your gut microbiome are the bacteria that are in your gut, your large intestine in particular. We have over 100 trillion microorganisms in your gut. It's estimated they weigh as much as 3 pounds in total. So 3 pounds of good bacteria in your gut that are essential for your health and how you feel. Some other fun facts to share with you is your gut bacteria outnumber your human cells by 10 to 1. So technically, you're more bacteria than human, just kind of crazy. So your gut has a personality. Scientists call it a second brain because it has up to 500 million neurons. That is more neurons than a dog's brain. So another one, gut bacteria influence your food cravings. So if you ever feel like sugar's calling your name, ironically, today's Valentine's Day, so this is quite fitting, but that craving could be coming from an overgrowth of bad bacteria in the gut that are wanting a little snack. And so they set off that craving and they get rewarded with what they were asking for, which is that sugar. And another kind of fun one is around passing gas. Farting and passing gas is a sign of a healthy gut, believe it or not. The average person passes gas 14 to 20 times a day. So if you're not, you might need a little bit more fiber, and we'll be covering some things around that. So we want to get cozy and comfy with these gut bugs that make up our microbiome. They have lots of very important jobs to do. 80% of your immune system lives in your gut. 90% of your serotonin, which is your feel-good hormone, is made in the gut and then transferred up to the brain. 80% of vagus nerve signals travel from the gut up to the brain. And we're going to dive into the vagus nerve quite a bit today. But really briefly, the vagus nerve is a nerve that comes out of the brain, goes down the body to all our different organ systems, and it's a two-way highway. About 20% of the pathways go down and about 80% go up. So our gut talks to our brain. And so we're going to talk about how the gut relates to, again, that's focus, concentration, but it's also mood, such as anxiety and stress. So that's going to be coming. The key takeaway to leave you with is that the bacteria are very, very important. So let's learn about what puts our microbiome at risk. I've got a little checklist for you here, and you can briefly read through it on your own. These are several risk factors.
Dr. Angie?
Yeah.
Oh, we can't see your screen. I'm so sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Let me back up. Okay. Did I forget to share my screen? I did. Oh my. Okay. Thank you so much for telling me.
It happens. Don't worry about it.
Not just to me, huh? All right, share. Here we are. All right, now can you see my screen? Excellent. All right. Visually, you haven't missed too much yet. The better stuff is coming. So, all right, so here is our checklist. Now you can read it. These are common factors that will throw that microbiome, that balance of good and bad bacteria, way out of balance. And there are things that might surprise you that start from your birth. If you had a C-section birth, that puts you at risk because you didn't get exposure to the normal vaginal flora that comes through a vaginal birth. Any antibiotic use. Research states overall that one single use of antibiotics will throw off your gut by as much as a year to 2 years. Processed foods, sugars, pesticides in our foods, lack of fiber, lack of fermented foods and probiotics. A big one is stress, and we're going to be talking about that today and next week, and other health conditions. So if you have checked 3 or more of these, stick with me and take some notes because we're going to be covering some solutions to this. So, all right. So what are some digestive warning signs? Your body's love language is communication, and it loves to talk to you via symptoms. And our job ideally is decode and learn them, not suppress them and push them away. So these warning signs can be early signs that, hey, my digestion's off. I wonder how I can support it to help it heal, to help it regulate and function better rather than suppress it. So feeling full can be a warning sign that your stomach isn't working very well. Maybe you're not emptying properly. Maybe we're not making enough stomach acid. Persistent bloating is another red flag. That can be imbalances in the gut microbiome, imbalances with digestion and gas production. Acid reflux and burning sensations tell us the digestive system's under stress. That can stem from things like a hiatal hernia, maybe a weakened esophageal sphincter, or believe it or not, low stomach acid rather than high stomach acid. So, and things like H. pylori, which is a bacteria that gets into the stomach. So irregular bowel movements, whether it's constipation or diarrhea, are clear indicators that the gut's trying to communicate with you and that it's telling you something's off. This can be caused from numerous amounts of things, from food sensitivities to intolerances to inflammation, and just overall imbalances in those good bacteria in the gut. So other common signs beyond things that are obvious, like the bloating, the reflux, and the gas. Some other symptoms can be hormonal imbalances. Your gut has a lot to do with your hormones, and we're going to come back to this topic in a little bit. Symptoms such as PMS, irregular periods, heavy periods, light periods, weight struggles are all potentially linked to gut health because of that gut hormone connection. Your gut is also linked to your brain. So brain fog, mood swings, mental cloudiness, ADHD and ADD type symptoms can have their root in the gut. Skin issues like eczema, acne, and psoriasis all have roots in the gut. Frequent colds, your immune system, up to 80% of your immune system's housed in the gut. So if we're getting sick really often, let's not just pour in immune boosting supplements, but let's focus on, well, what's the gut doing too? Autoimmunity. Women are number one, they lead the way in autoimmunity. And a big reason is that weakened gut that sets the stage for autoimmunity to start to develop. So being aware of these signs can help you decode what's going on in your body. And again, get you used to starting to listen to it and then starting to take those steps towards feeling better. Now, the last way we're going to talk about today that your body communicates to you is about the health of your digestive system is through your poop. So we can't talk about gut health if we're not going to talk about stools and poop. So let's just go there. You can have a good idea of how healthy your digestive system is by looking at what goes in and what comes out. This is what we call a Bristol stool chart. And can anyone guess, if you just want to pop into the chat, which one of these is the healthy stool that we are ideally looking for? So, and they're all numbered. Yes. Number 4 is our healthy stool. So that is what we're looking for. So your body, if you see any of the above, 1, 2, or 3, 5, 6, or 7, then those are signs that your body is going, hey, something's a little bit off. Let's do some course correction. And one fun tool, let me move this over. And thing to know is that it is essential for gut health to be pooping every single day. If you're not pooping at least a minimum of once a day, you're constipated. That waste is staying in your body too long and can lead to a lot of the symptoms that we've been covering so far. It is also ideal that you're passing about a foot of stool per day. That might be in one time, or many people might have 2 to 3 times that they are passing stool. A foot of stool is about the length of your elbow to your wrist. So to give you a visual, this is what we're going for to each and every day. All right. Now, just to break it up a little bit and give you a little laugh, I hope this video works. Can everybody hear it? Yes. No? Okay, we can't hear it. Ah, darn it. I can't figure out how to get that to work, but we can include the video in the follow-up email, but it's a little boy that is super duper excited that he is going to pass a very large stool, apparently. So just a little laugh about maybe adults could act like kids sometimes too and be super excited. So all right. A common thing I get asked a lot about is something called leaky gut. The technical term is intestinal hyperpermeability. Now that's a really big word, so we're just going to call it leaky gut. But many people will ask, well, what exactly is it? And do I actually have holes in my intestines? And to simply put it, yes, you do. Leaky gut is just kind of how it sounds. It's when the gut cells get leaky. And these cells right here, when inflammation comes into the gut from the things we've been talking about so far, maybe it's antibiotic use, maybe it's processed foods, the inflammation that starts to build damages the cells and what we call tight junctions, which are kind of like glue that holds them together. And as that glue gets damaged by all the inflammation, those cells, if my hands are the cells, start to separate. And now we have these channels where our bacteria, our toxins that are leaving the liver, our stool, anything now can leave the large intestine. It goes through those channels, and then on the other side are blood vessels. So they go into the bloodstream, and now they have a one-way ticket all over the body. This means toxins, debris, and waste can leave the gut and create systemic inflammation anywhere and everywhere when we've got a leaky gut. So it's estimated up to 2/3 of Americans are living with poor gut health. So this is a very big potential root cause of all the chronic disease that is going on in our country right now. So that's why we're here, and that's why we're talking about it. So. All right, gut hormones and mood connection. Many people are really surprised that their gut has anything to do with hormones such as thyroid or estrogen, but they're very interconnected, as well as our gut and our brain. There is something called an estrobolome, and this is the gut microbiome's impact on your estrogen metabolism. This is a key factor in hormone balance. So this means the health of your gut plays a big role in regulating how high your estrogen levels are. When your gut's out of balance, then it's very possible your estrogen levels are often going to go too high. If I'm working with someone who has signs and symptoms or lab tests that show high estrogen, one of the first things we work on is making sure that they are pooping every single day. We've got to get that waste out, and we've got to help reset that microbiome so it's not driving that estrogen up. So your gut and brain health are another thing that is very closely linked together. And your gut influences mood and neurotransmitter production. I shared some of those stats earlier, beginning with serotonin. So this means your behavior and your mood are greatly influenced by the health or lack thereof in your digestive system. If you struggle with anxiety, depression, mood swings, low motivation, if your child struggles with behavior at school, he's quick to anger, and so I have to handle maybe huge tantrums, starting with nurturing that digestive system is really key. There is something, if anyone here today has heard of diagnosis called PANS or PANDAS. This is child-specific, it's pediatric autoimmune neuroencephaly. And what happens is some kind of virus, strep is attached to PANDAS, is a trigger, and this child will get strep. Then they will develop kind of psychiatric symptoms such as tics, severe anxiety, mood swings, anger, rage. And this often happens because the child had a leaky, inflamed gut first. Then the child got infected with some sort of virus, strep if it's PANDAS, and that strep was too much of a stressor for the immune system. The gut was too compromised at that time of exposure. Now the gut and the immune system are compromised, and now we compromise the brain. So we have 3 major systems all compromised for these poor kiddos. So I bring this up because your biology influences your psychology. Your gut influences your brain and your mood. So whenever we see mood issues, we cannot leave the gut out of the equation. We've got to bring it in. And unfortunately, in Western medicine, it is rarely ever addressed. So if, again, this applies to anybody here, make sure that we are addressing gut health alongside. So children with healthy digestive tracts are far, far less at risk for developing something like PANS and PANDAS. Adults are far less likely to struggle with anxiety and depression when they have a healthy digestive tract. So we're going to dive into stress, anxiety, and depression next week at our masterclass and really talk about mood beyond just digestion too. So inflammation in the gut can also, beyond the brain, can lead to joint pain, skin problems, and immune challenges. I have what's called non-celiac gluten sensitivity. And if I eat gluten, it inflames my gut and I quickly get a leaky gut and it goes to my joints. My hands will hurt. I kind of have a theory from what I see that if you have a scenario similar to mine and it goes to your joints, it often seems to go to the joints you use the most. And I use my hands a lot. So my hands will ache and feel really stiff when I have gluten. I don't have any digestive issues. I never really have. It's all joint pain. My daughter also is gluten-free, and if she has gluten or corn, her skin shows up. So you can have different concerns that are not gut related, but still point back to the gut. So our key takeaway is that, again, gut health affects far more than just digestion. So, all right, now that we've covered all our connections, let's start shifting towards understanding how digestion works so we can understand how we can approach to fix it. When we look at digestion, it's important to understand that digestion happens from north to south, from the top to the bottom. So digestion doesn't start in my stomach. It doesn't start in my intestines. It starts in my brain, and then in my nose and in my mouth. So think of your brain, your mouth, and your nose as kind of their upper management. They're the boss, the CEO. They are telling the rest of your digestive system what to do and when to do it. They're assigning all the orders. So when we are approaching digestion, we first look at our food, we smell our food, and then our mouth starts to water. Maybe our stomach starts to gurgle. We're triggering salivation and digestive enzyme production in the mouth and in the stomach as we start to use our senses to take in all this information. The vagus nerve is at work at this time. And again, that comes out up here and comes down through the body. And it is kicking in and it is starting to work at this point. And it's preparing your body to digest your food. So it's taking in all this information and it's going to start to relay to your stomach and everybody south. Hey, let's get ready. There's some food coming. Get up and let's start doing your job. To trigger this vagus nerve, we must be in a calm and restful state. So we're going to do some vagus nerve exercises and dive into a little bit more of that in a little bit. But one pro tip that you can do is to just simply take 3 deep belly breaths before eating to activate that rest and digest mode. So super simple, and we'll cover more pretty soon here. All right, next is the stomach. Think of the stomach kind of like the processing plant. We've chewed our food, now it's going to drop down into the stomach, and the stomach produces stomach acid. This acid helps to break down protein. It also helps our immune system by killing off what we call pathogens, which are the good and which are the bad viruses and the bacteria that we don't want to get into our gut. So it's an acid sludge that kills them off to keep them from continuing in and making us sick. It also helps to pull out minerals from our food. And it works in optimal conditions of when we are in a relaxed environment, when we're really chewing our food, and we want to chew our food down to mush before we swallow, and with adequate hydration. But a key with hydration is that we are not drinking very much while we eat. We want to drink before, in between meals, after meals, probably 30 minutes after at least. But if we're drinking water or any hydration, while we're eating, we're gonna water down our stomach acid, and it can be really then hard to digest our food because we can change that pH slightly, and then the stomach really struggles. So hydration is very important for digestion, just not while you're eating, before and after. So, all right, and then an upright posture. It is very helpful to be eating upright versus reclined, or in other positions. So after the stomach does its job, next up in line are the gallbladder and the pancreas. They are the second processing plant. Once the stomach's done its job, now the gallbladder comes in and it breaks down fats. The pancreas helps to break down carbs and sugars. The gallbladder will produce bile acid. Well, the liver produces it, the gallbladder stores it. And that bile acid is breaking down your fats. It's helping aid in detoxification. It's pulling things out. And it really helps to regulate your estrogen levels. So if you have sludgy, slow bile, that can cause high estrogen problems. And that bile is forming your stool. So that high estrogen is again going to travel from the gallbladder, and then it's going to go to the gut. So, all right, next, after the gallbladder and the pancreas, as we travel further down, we've got the small intestine and then the large intestine. This is the assembly line and the recycling center. These guys will absorb the nutrients from our food. They form our immune system. They're important for hormone regulation, fermentation, and waste preparation. And the microbiome that we've been talking about is living in the large intestine in particular. So this is where we need those good bacteria to go to work and do their job. All right. Now that we have a little understanding of how digestion works, we're going to apply that to your own gut healing action plan. So whether you have digestive symptoms or not, let's create a solid plan to reset and heal your gut. When you're approaching your gut healing plan, remember the north to south process. We want to start by working with the brain. That vagus nerve, the nerve system, is crucial because it controls digestion. Your vagus nerve is a nerve, again, that exits out of the back of the head. It drops down and it goes to every single organ we have. And it helps to regulate all the things that are automatic about what our body does. Our heart rate, our digestion, the motility of our gut, how well it can push food through. And if it's weakened, then your gut can be thrown off of balance. Your brain might not be able to communicate to your gut to pick up motility, to speed up, or to slow down. If those messages can't come through very well, now it doesn't really matter what foods we're eating or how we're eating them, because it's just going to struggle no matter what we do. So the most efficient, the smartest place you can start is actually in your nerve system before we're even doing anything else. So some vagus nerve exercises, some tips for you to strengthen this all-important nerve that we keep talking about. And the first one is some deep belly breathing. The vagus nerve passes through our diaphragm. So if we stretch that diaphragm and we work it, we can activate that nerve. One of my favorites is the 4-7-8 technique. You take a breath in for 4, you hold for 7, and you exhale for 8. In other classes, we've done square breathing. There's a lot of great breathing techniques out there. The key is that you just get your ribs moving. It can be helpful to put your ribs on your sides. And as you breathe, you feel your ribs expand. That's your diaphragm expanding. That's going to help activate that vagus nerve, and that your exhale is longer than your inhale. That helps us get out of that stress mode, out of that fight or flight mode, and into a rest and digest mode. So some other options are gargling. When we gargle, you can gargle with anything, water. You can do this at night if you're brushing your teeth. When you gargle, you do want to gargle very vigorously. It's often going to make you laugh because you want to gargle so much that your eyes start to water. So this is some pretty aggressive gargling. I won't lie, it's not my favorite one to do, but it can be kind of fun. So humming is another one, humming and singing. When we vibrate our vocal cords, the vagus nerve drops down right there. And so it'll be able to activate that vagus nerve through the movement of our vocal cords. So humming and singing. Cold exposure, splashing cold water on your face as you're washing your face at night or in the morning, turning the shower to cold in the morning if you can do it, can be really great to activate that vagus nerve. And the last thing that we're going to do together for a vagus nerve exercise are some tongue exercises. We're going to activate the hypoglossal nerve to the tongue and also its relationship to the vagus nerve. So the first tongue exercise I want to lead you through, if you'll do it with me. You can do these ideally before you start to eat, or at any time you just want to establish a feeling of calm as they help calm the body and get it out of that fight or flight state. So with your tongue, I'm going to scoot a little bit closer. We're going to move our tongue in front of our teeth, but behind the lips. And we're going to move it 4 times in a clockwise direction and then 4 times in a counterclockwise direction. So for the first time, if you want to watch me and then join me, we're going to do this together. So we go. And go ahead and join me. You want to really get your tongue as far back as you can, really reaching that tongue back. And then we're going to go counterclockwise. I don't know. All right. I don't know about you, but I'm already starting to salivate. So that is a really helpful one for me that I often do, as it really gets those digestive juices going. The next one we're going to do is also with the tongue. And this one is also very simple. We're going to move your tongue into your right cheek 10 times and then your left cheek 10 times. So we're going to go back and forth 10 times on each side or 20 times total. So we just go ahead and start. I'm going to start to the right and then go back and forth. You want to push pretty hard, really get that tongue moving over into the cheeks, stretch it out. Good. When you finish 10 on each side, just take a brief breath in and out. Let that exhale be longer than that inhale. That's a nice vagus nerve toning breath to follow this work. And you might even notice like my shoulders are relaxing a little bit. You might, again, if you're starting to salivate, that's excellent. That's what we want to do before we eat, because our digestion starts in our mouth, not in our stomach. So how did that go for everybody? Pretty good? Excellent. All right. I expect you guys to do this tonight before dinner. See how it goes. Now that our digestive juices are flowing, we have turned up that internal energy dial on our digestive tract. It's getting the messages that I know I'm ready for the job. I am going to start digesting food. Let's get to it. Let's talk about what do we give to our body to nourish that microbiome. And we can start with the 3 F's: fiber, phytonutrients, which is an F sound, and fermented foods. So fiber can come from things like chia seeds, flax seeds, basil seeds, vegetables, legumes, which are beans, and whole grains if you can tolerate gluten. These are all potential great sources of fiber. Fiber can come from fruit like apples and pears. I often encourage people to focus on the vegetable sources first and foremost. We usually have no problem getting fruit into our diet. We often struggle more on the vegetable side of things. So if our primary sources of fiber are vegetables, then we also don't have to worry as much about our blood sugars and creating any inflammation there. So phytonutrients is our second F word, and these are the colorful foods to eat. This includes vegetables and fruits. And the ideal is to eat the rainbow of colors. You've probably heard that term before, but this is why it's so important. Those bacteria need food, and they need it from a variety of sources and colors. So the blues, the whites, the oranges, the reds, the greens, the purples, all those different colors. There's often a couple colors that we're the weakest on, so I would encourage you to just take a look at your vegetables, open up your refrigerator and see what color do I mainly see and what colors do I need to start incorporating more of into my meals and into my diet. And the third one are fermented foods, sauerkraut, kimchi, yogurt if it's really low sugar, kombucha if it's low sugar, miso are all really great options. The ideal is to aim for 1 tablespoon a day at a minimum. Ideally, you would have a fermented food at each meal and then rotating through those different sources. So our gut microbiome and those healthy bugs love to eat different things. In fact, different foods feed different bacteria. Eggplant feeds one set of bugs, while asparagus feeds another, and berries yet another. So we want to focus on these 3 F's, but make sure that while we're doing it, we're not picking the same 3 vegetables to eat every day. The diversity of colors and varieties is really, really important. And to kind of stress the importance, I want to use an analogy of your gut being like a symphony orchestra. Now imagine tonight your best friend surprises you with tickets to a fancy orchestra and you get all dressed up, you go to the show, you take your seat and the music starts, but you're like, hey, it's only the tubas playing. There are some seats that are empty, others are sleeping, others are just sitting there looking at you, not even playing their instruments. How odd would this sound if you expected this full, beautiful symphony and all you got were tubas? I'm pretty sure you'd want your money back because that's a pretty weak performance. The music sounds off balance, it's incomplete, and it's out of tune. And this is just like your gut. Your gut, like that symphony orchestra, if it lacks diversity, it is not going to be able to perform very well. We need all different types of instruments, like we need all different types of bacteria for a richer, stronger, more resilient gut. So the goal is to take those 3 F's and aim for 30 plus different plant foods per week. That will create that robust microbiome that you're going for. Now, many people go, how is it possible to get 30 different plant sources or fiber sources? And a really helpful tip are they can come from herbs. So putting herbs into your recipes, into your meals is a great way to bump up the diversity very easily and very quickly. So throwing in some basil, some oregano, thyme. Thyme is a really good antibacterial, antiviral. So that's a great one to be throwing in this time of year to give your gut a little extra boost of support. So, all right. Let's cover, lastly, our microbiome mischief makers. We covered a little bit earlier the things that disrupt the gut. And knowing that, we can kind of swap some of those things for healthier choices. So we can swap soda for kombucha. They also have these kind of prebiotic sodas. Olipop, I think it is, can be a fun choice. You can swap white breads for sprouted grains or candy for a good dark chocolate. All right. Now putting all of this together, this framework can give you kind of a linear step-by-step approach of how to apply this information. And we start moving from north to south. And this 5R with an extra R retained makes it a 6R protocol that I utilize with my functional medicine clients. And we start first with remove. So if you're sitting here going, where do I even start? Let's start by removing those gut disruptors, the processed foods, the sugars, and the artificial additives. For many, we're going to be removing gluten and dairy too. If you have any food sensitivities that you know of, we want to remove those. One of the tests that I offer in the office is called an MRT, and that can help identify food sensitivities, not allergies, but sensitivities. And that can help people if they're not sure what to remove in this stage too. So Other foods can be corn, soy, eggs, and artificial sugars and sugar alcohols too. So another very important thing, again, thinking north to south, we want to remove stress. So if we're stuck in that fight or flight, we're going to have a hard time healing the digestive system. So starting in this remove phase from the very beginning with those vagus nerve exercises, some deep breaths, some humming, some tongue exercises. You can do those before meals, or you can do them at any point of the day to keep encouraging a healthy digestive system. Then from remove, we replace. We focus on upper management first. So again, those vagus nerve exercises will continue throughout this whole process. Now we're going to slow down. We're going to chew our food. We're going to sit down, ideally. We're not going to be on our screens scrolling and being distracted. We want to see our food. We want to smell our food. We want to chew it 20 to 30 times so it's mush before you swallow. We're going to limit water intake while you eat so it doesn't water down that stomach acid. And digestive enzymes can be helpful to replace at this stage too, so we can really get that digestive fire going really well. Then we repopulate with the 3 F's, those fermented foods, those probiotics and prebiotic foods that can fuel them. Prebiotics are the foods the probiotics, the bacteria, need to eat. So some really good ones are asparagus, garlic, onions, scallions, things in the onion family are really great prebiotic foods. So you don't need to supplement them, you can just eat them. So then we move into repair. It's heal and seal time. So some helpful things here are bone broths, collagen powders, gut healing nutrients such as L-glutamine, zinc, aloe, marshmallow, slippery elm. These are all really helpful choices. Then we rebalance. We focus on sleep, stress, and movement. We start working towards creating a healthy gut lifestyle in all things, not just our food choices. And then we dive into retaining. We've done all this work at rebuilding our gut. Let's make sure we can retain it by creating and maintaining some long-term habits, and then track your progress along the way. So if you're starting to slip, you can very quickly course correct and get back on track again. So if you need help with any sleep, stress, or movement ideas, check out our previous master classes as we took much deeper dives into some of those before this class. So, all right. Now I wanted to show you real briefly what gut health testing looks like. So when I'm working with one-on-one clients, a common functional test I will look at or an order is called a GI map test. Or a tiny health pro gut test, depending on the age of the client. So this first example is what I call a GI map. This is looking at function of your gut. And this picture in particular is looking at the different gut bacteria that make up your microbiome. And I look to see, are they high, are they low, or are they just right? We want those little black arrows in the green. We don't want them to the left or to the right in the yellow or the red zones. That means our gut microbiome is off balance. So this isn't just a theoretical thing, you can measure it. And this is one of the tests. Our next one is looking at the bad bacteria. This is when digestion's not doing its job, these bad viruses and bacteria got past the stomach. They didn't get killed there, and now they made it all the way down to the southernmost end of our large intestine. And there, they're going to be the bullies of the digestive tract, and they're going to create a lot of inflammation and that leaky gut that we've talked about. So these are things that with functional medicine, we focus on getting rid of and removing so it doesn't continue to create the symptoms you're probably struggling with. So. And then the last one is looking at digestion. The thing I love probably the most about this test is it tells me how are you digesting your food. This one in particular, this person was struggling to digest their carbohydrates and their fats. They also had low immunity, and a high zonulin score means they also had a leaky gut. Not too surprised looking at what was before that test, but it helps to just confirm. Where do we need to start? We need to start with this person with upper digestion. We're never going to fix that microbiome if we can't break our carbs and our fats down properly. So This is when we take the 6R protocol and now we can specifically target it towards those test results. The next one is our tiny health gut test. So this is on tiny people, on babies, on toddlers, on children. So this one is from a 7-year-old, and this, let's see, make that bigger. This is just a overview. So this is a multi-page test. It's really great. And the first page gives me an overall summary. And you can see here, there are 13 markers that need support with 7 that need improvement. So this little guy needed quite a bit of help. Then this one. All right, so this is one of the tests. And something interesting about this test and why I put it here is that this child struggled with anxiety and sleep. He also had a history of low muscle tone as a baby. A major finding here was that this test was showing impaired GABA breakdown. This is a neurotransmitter made in the gut that goes up to the brain. And this little guy, anxiety and sleep. So his previous providers were focusing on the brain and the brain only when we needed to go to the gut. And this test really helped us figure out what's the issue with the gut and how can we start to course correct it. To give you an idea, if we have impaired GABA breakdown, if we can't break it down properly, symptoms of that can be excessive fatigue and brain fog, unexplained anxiety and panic attacks, muscle weakness, which he had when he was younger, dizziness, sleep disturbances, mood instability, low motivation, and gut issues. So we found it, we were able to help fix it, and now he is doing amazing. So that leads me into kids. So most of us here might have kids at home, maybe kids are grown, maybe they're still little yet. But gut health is important for the kids' overall well-being, just like it is for ours. So some ideas to get kids involved to work on their gut health too could be taking them to the grocery store. Now, every mom's going to go, I never want to take my kids to the grocery store. I would much rather leave them at home and go by myself. But bear with me, a special trip for them and take them through the vegetables and the fruits and make it a little bit of an adventure and a challenge. Can you pick out a vegetable or a fruit that maybe you don't know what it is? A different color, you've never tried it, something new like dragon fruit, something really cool. And then they get to come home, they get to research it a little bit and figure out how to prepare it. If it's safe, can they cut it up themselves? My kids love cutting things up all by themselves. And early on, we got them these little Montessori knives they could cut up carrots with, and oh, they just loved it. So it was a great way to get help, but also get them involved in eating more vegetables. So encouraging them, again, to eat the different colors, trying new foods that way that they can pick. If they can take ownership over it, they're often more likely to try it and even like it versus if we're picking it for them. So you can make a game out of it. You can use fermented foods like fermented pickles, not vinegar pickles, but fermented pickles. Sauerkraut, yogurt are all really good kid-friendly fermented foods. And you can turn it into a challenge of who can try the most different fermented foods. Maybe not at one time, that might not agree with your stomach very well, but maybe in a day as an option. So staying hydrated, if your kids struggle with drinking water, maybe they just get to decorate a water bottle with some fun stickers, or they put, if it's a clear water bottle, they put a marker and they have to drink or fill it up to that marker and drink it down to the bottom. That can be really motivating as well. Some gentle belly breathing to help calm the nervous system before they're eating or at night when they're getting ready for bed. They can very easily do the tongue exercises. Kids, sometimes they'll struggle with the first one, but they love to do the one where you're pushing it against their cheeks, or at least my kids will. So those can be great too. All right, question and answer time. What questions, if anything, do we have? No questions for anybody? No? What causes really stinky farts? That's a good one. Yes. that what happens usually is that's the fermentation process, the breakdown process happening in the large intestine. But when they're really stinky, that often means there is sometimes an improper detoxification going on, and you've got all these sulfur producing bacteria that are going to work, and they're out of balance. There's too many of those in comparison to other ones. So if we have this imbalance of bacteria and we have an overgrowth of sulfur producing ones, then our stools and or our gas can be really stinky. So it can be that imbalance of not enough variety of gut bacteria. It can be some constipation. That stool is sitting there too long, and so it gets extra time to ferment and to break down, and that can lead to a lot of smell with it. So a healthy digestive system does not produce hardly any smell. So if there's a bad smell, we've got a little bit of work to do. So that's a good question. I like that one. So anything else? All right. If you think of anything, feel free to pop it into the chat. All right, so next steps. We have made a gut health reset cheat sheet for you to take this information with you now so you can start to implement it at dinner even tonight. Again, we're going to start with the north, start with the head and work your way down. But we've basically just given you the highlight reel of what we have talked about today. So Alicia can pop that into the chat for you. You can grab it. Feel free to pass it out to all your friends and family. I'm sure they'll love it. Join me next week. We're going to be talking about stress, mood, and anxiety, and it will tie into today's topic, and then we're going to expand upon it. So whether you struggle or a loved one struggles, it's going to be a really great chat together. And then lastly, if you are feeling lost and you think, I just want some one-on-one help, these are all really great ideas, but I'm not really sure what I should implement. Please feel free to click the link in the chat to schedule your free 30-minute health solutions call with me. So during our time together, we just get an idea of what you're struggling with, what your goals are, and if we're a good fit to work together or not. So. All right, and Alicia can pop that into the chat for you as well, and it'll get sent out in the email after this as a follow-up. So thank you very, very much for joining me today. I know how precious your time is, and so I'm really honored that you chose to join me and spend it with me today. So I'm excited for you to take your first steps towards healing. You can connect with us in other ways via our website. I would love it if you would follow us on social media. We're doing a really we're putting a lot of effort to putting some good stuff out there for you guys. And so if you're on our social pages, you can see our Instagram and Facebook here. Please follow us and comment, like, share, all the fun things. And I will see you next time. Thanks, everybody.